I mean, I know I could compete with the best of these guys. It's just like, if I do fight again, what am I fighting for? Just to fight? It has to. I've done that 50 times. You know, I don't know. I got a little girl I love, and I gotta see. I think this could be it, honestly, Joe.
Well, if it is it, congratulations on an absolutely amazing career, and it has been an honor to call your fights.
So there you have it, sort of semi-straight from the horse's mouth. It seems like in the wake of Dustin Poirier being submitted by Islam Makhachev, he's potentially considering retirement. As he sort of clarified, he wasn't really sure, and he re-clarifies again in the actual post-fight interview, if anybody saw that or cares to go on and watch that. So there's a little bit of speculation around whether he's going to continue on in the UFC or whether he's just going to call it quits. Honestly, myself, I potentially see him moving away from the UFC and ending up in a, boxing match in Saudi Arabia with Conor McGregor in a couple of years for a massive, massive amount of money. But let's talk about the fight itself. It was a really good fight. Dustin absolutely fought his ass off, and that can't be denied. But at the same point in time, like when you're going against such a complete fighter like Islam Makhachev, who can do whatever he wants to you on the ground and then can keep up with somebody like Dustin Poirier on the feet, it becomes a massive problem at the end of the day to solve that no one seems to be able to figure that puzzle out yet. It was noted by several people after the fight that, especially because Makhachev fights very similar to his trainer and mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, who also in one of his, I think it might have been his last fight or one of his last fights, submitted Dustin Poirier in the second or third round. So Dustin's made significant improvements against that style since that period of time. And there was periods towards the end of the fight where it looked like if he was able to string a couple of shots together that he might be able to get this guy out of there. But lo and behold, in the fifth round, he threw a leg kick up the center. Islam tries to go for a single leg as Poirier tries to throw a punch or leans back to throw a shot. Makhachev throws his foot out of the way, jumps in and gets him in a D'Arce choke after 2 attempts, and Poirier has to tap. So unfortunate that if this is the end of his career, that's how it's ended. If this is the end of his career, like, congratulations on, and absolutely, like, he'll go down in the history books for sure. There's nobody that doesn't like Dustin Poirier for what he's done. And even if you don't like him, you do have to recognize his achievements, even though he did never technically get his hands on that title. But that's just the nature of the game. Some of the greatest never really do. So there'll be questions for weeks about whether Poirier's going to continue on in the sport, but we know Makhachev is, and it seems like from his post-fight interview that he's got 2 kind of options in mind, one of them being a rematch with Arman Tsarukyan, who is the number 1 contender in the lightweight division at the moment after his last win against Oliveira. But he is also heavily considering the option that he's been talking about for a while, and now after these last couple of performances, it seems like he's actually sort of earned the opportunity to do it. He wants to go up to 170 pounds and fight. He says he wants to fight Leon Edwards, but obviously Leon Edwards is fighting Bilal Muhammad at UFC 304, I believe it is. So if Islam wants to go up, he's going to have to fight the winner of that fight, Leon Edwards. Go home, Bilal. So remains to be seen what kind of path he's going to take. I suppose it really depends on what the winner of that fight wants to do. I kind of assume that if Bilal wins the fight, that there's probably some form of rematch going to be put in place, because I don't think the UFC likes Bilal in any way, shape or form. Noted by the fact that it's taken him this long to get a title shot when he has been at the top of the division for quite a long period of time. So, writing's on the wall there, bud. But I digress. Disappointing to see, but also, fight for the history books for sure. Like, there was several periods of time where Poirier could have got him out of there. There were several periods of time where Makhachev could have ended it earlier than it did, but that's just the way that it goes. So moving on from that, I'll also speak quickly about the co-main event. I travelled over to watch the fight with a couple of friends, so I didn't catch any of the earlier fights on the card. Plus, I was tired from watching boxing earlier in the day. Be another video on that later in the week. But I did see all of the co-main event fight between Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa. Not much to comment on from the fight per se, because it was really pretty much just a one-sided beatdown, but there was one judge that for some unknown reason decided to score the fight to Costa, and this kind of thing needs to stop. The judges that keep putting forth these scorecards, whether it be in UFC, boxing, any kind of combat sport, there needs to be some kind of judicial system to penalize these people and remove them from the system, because it's happening so consistently, so frequently, that it doesn't bring up the question of whether these people are inept. It starts to bring in the question of whether these people are being paid off to make these decisions, because it can't happen every single week. I can't remember either a boxing or a UFC event for the last couple of months, be it maybe even year or two, that there hasn't been some controversial card put forth in some event, whether it be a main event, whether it be the first fight on an untelevised prelim. There's something going on, and it needs to be looked at heavier. So, like I said, sucks to see Poirier lose. It'll probably suck even more if he does retire after this, but I don't see him moving completely away from combat sports. I see him probably getting a massive bag to do a boxing fight or two, and he'll probably do quite well. He's got some decent hands and some just decent boxing overall. Probably one of the best boxers in the UFC. Like and subscribe for more news and updates. Podcast available on Apple and Spotify. There'll be a new one of those later in the week, hopefully. And I will speak to you guys soon. Thanks for watching.